Good evening, everybody. There's a little bit of funny business I need to do at the start here just because uh, OBS doesn't seem to like the DOSBox instance that comes up for this. I am exceptionally tired, which kind of seems to be a perpetual state on the stream here. I will confess, I actually spent a little time reviewing the different options that I had for games. Excuse me. Um, I'm not looking to avoid Quest for Glory, aka Heroes Quest, although I think was later renamed because I think it's a board game. Anyway, um, but yeah, so I was looking forward to doing this again. I know it's been a while since I streamed. It's been exactly a week, or no, not exactly a week. No, it has been a week because of the Easter weekend. I am trying to do a good job of taking taking the days off when I can, when they're like proper Canadian holidays. But obviously, I'd like a little more variety in the stream. So, I like playing Outlast Trials, but I don't want the stream to become focused on Outlast Trials. I liked playing Cyberpunk, and I was able to manage that as sort of a once every Friday game. And, XCOM did a good job for the Monday and Wednesday. And I'm trying to decide, does it make sense to do sort of a different game each day? Or do I want there to be sort of two main game, or like a main game for 2 days and then like something special on Fridays? I don't really have a good idea. This one I kind of did on a lark, and I think like a lot of older games, this is one of these cases where I am charmed by it. I can definitely see how games have improved over the intervening decades. It's gonna be like 40 years between when this game came out and now, however long it is. Yeah, so this is my technically not my first encounter with this game because I did plan on doing it on stream a few years ago actually, and it's not even that I changed my mind so much as just other stuff got in the way. Um, but yeah, this is just definitely a case where there's like I I do not have the maybe the temperament or the background to um kind of meet this game where it was when it first came out, and that's fine. Like I think there's something enjoyable about trying to come to terms with a game like this, especially because there are a few games that I'm trying to learn which I think take as their inheritance um, some of the old school strategy games, and they have very long manuals and sort of expect you to understand how to play. So, or at least to read the manual to learn how to play, as opposed to giving you like a good tutorial inside the game itself. So these are kind of little training wheels. Underwater Monk asks, does it still run fine in Windows or using some interpreter software? So I got this through GOG.com, and they sort of take care of all of they sort of take all of the, they abstract away all the trouble for you. So they'll set it up inside of DOSBox, which I suspect is probably what you're referring to in terms of the interpreter software. Um, so yeah, I suspect this. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's been a very long time since I've run anything in a compatibility mode on Windows, so I don't know. Um, I don't know if that's unnecessary or not. Let's say, um, but in this case, it wasn't a requirement. The only drawback for me is that if I tab out, it will go to like a proper resolution screen, which is, fine for stream. It's going to look the same as it does right now, but for me, it's going to be a very, very small game. And if I try to direct it to open or to stream a particular window, it will. it just doesn't show up for whatever reason. So it's fine. Like what it'll mean is if I do have to consult some sort of external guide, I'll just have to use my tablet or something, which is not the worst fate in the world. And frankly, it's probably not a bad thing that I have some sort of friction in terms of getting the, getting that kind of help, just because it's easy to see why I would maybe want to, why I'd want to do that, but there is some benefit in, struggling. So also, sorry, like I said, I'm really tired right now, so I'm sort of delaying the hour of doom, but I guess I should get on to it. We will continue our quest. Okay. Now, it wasn't entirely clear to me. Maybe we should see what the time is. Mid-afternoon on day 4. So I don't think an empty wagon stands rotting in the courtyard. Yeah, so there didn't seem to be much for me to do here. And then I've already cleaned the stables. Ask about the castle. This is the castle of Baron Stefan von Spielberg. The doors are securely locked and barred from the inside. All right. So there's actually, I guess this doesn't give me a list of objectives. One of the ones which is unfortunately going to be a bit tedious to watch. Actually, I'm curious if I guess I need to look at the character sheet. Don't have much in terms of magic, but I can rest to get that. The centaur stops raking as you approach. So, sorry, what I was trying to say here, there's a few threads that I can follow up on. I have mostly been interested in trying to get the seed. I think there are other things that I can try and do. And there's also a couple of other places where that I haven't explored yet. But I think I'm most inclined to trying to work out this this magic thing. And the one drawback is that, as far as I can tell, the only way that I can actually how do I put this? Like, the only way I can actually get the skill leveled up is to use it. And yeah, that's going to mean doing a lot of resting, I think. All right. The goblin has a mean look in its eyes. You prepare for battle. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, well, I'm no good at that. I didn't necessarily mind taking a little damage because I'll recover it from resting, but this poor slob was the big loser at the poker game. He didn't even have lunch money. You find 4 silvers tucked in his tunic. He has no use for silvers anymore, so into your pocket they go. I mean, I can try another fight. But the thing is, I don't necessarily need to boost my my fighting ability. Alright, clearly I got this wrong. Ellen Ripley! Thank you very much for this. I don't know why the subscription alert isn't playing. Oh, crap. I see why. All right. Just give me a minute here. I need to clear out the riffraff. I'm unfortunately going to have to reset the stream. I don't know if I can requote Raiders of the Lost Ark for you, but if you could just imagine the alert. You know what? I frankly wouldn't blame you. I can look into. I think there's probably an option in Streamlabs somewhere. Oh yeah, I think they disabled my donation button. Yeah, I gotta fix some stuff in Streamlabs anyway. But yeah, I can probably find a way to trigger that again if you'd really like to see it. Anyways, wonderful to see you again. I know you've been dealing with a bunch of spam from me for the last little while. But I hope you've been keeping well. 2 can play at that game, Ellen Ripley. Although I think you're referring to the what is it, the Prime? I'm sorry, I'm very, very tired. But yes, I do want to at least restore the alert in case there are other subs. Okay. Yep, that's exactly what went wrong. I know all of you can't see what's on here. You don't owe me anything, Ellen Ripley, but I am sorry to hear it was a brutal end of quarter. I did make an alternative. I did make an alternative Discord because the schlonged one is like fully schlonged. Sorry, this is not going to make sense to anybody now. How do I explain this to the people? So there's a mutual stream that Ellen Ripley and I know, where very obviously the broadcaster had their account taken over. And I'm trying to remember how this originally came up. I think at some point I had made a reference to the then Republican candidate for president's description of the failure of Hillary Clinton's the failure of her campaign against Barack Obama, and for whatever reason it's stuck. And so I was like keeping a time or like a counter of like how long, because like whoever took over the Discord obviously did not know how Discord worked, because they sort of failed to delete all of the channels, although that was clearly what they wanted to do. And so there'd sort of be these like little huddles of survivors who were able to find each other, up to and including one of the voice chats. And the guy finally figured out, after I'm like being a complete ass and like doing an at everyone to state trivialities, I think they eventually figured out how to get rid of the voice chat. So one of the things I did as a consequence was I made a replacement Discord. But the one thing that's very funny about it is I don't have the list of people that are in the old Discord. That would have been one of the things that you would have seen inside of a channel. So I should have done this much earlier. But what is very amusing is all of the names that I know are usually people I've screenshotted because of something really stupid that they've said. So I'm sending out invitations, but like invitations to people who almost certainly do not want to hear from me. So, yeah. Now, when you're talking about the Sierra Online splash screen, have you ever played the Quest for Glory games? Yeah, I don't even know why I'm being coy about the name. I guess the one thing is I guess it'd be nice not to, you know what, let's fight it. Please let me switch. There we go. It's a good thing I saved. You are so exhausted that everything you do hurts. Better get some rest. I think, yeah, I'm dead. Oh, I didn't know there was a Sierra documentary. There's a couple of Sierra games that I've done on this stream. You know what? Let's give it a shot. I think I did Gabriel Knight Sins of the Fathers on stream. I quite like that one. Uh-oh. I don't think I can do another attack now. Yeah. Ah. But yeah. Oh yeah, I've also done Leisure Suit Larry. I believe I did that one on YouTube because there was some restriction against playing it on Twitch. I don't know if that's still... So deleting the channels, so far as I can tell, was just vandalism. But the advantage for hijacking the Discord, it's basically to run the scam that they did. So like the thing that drives me a little crazy is the number of people who called the person who did it a hacker. It's like they probably didn't hack anything. What they almost certainly actually phished the person who on the Discord. Obviously, I, being the sensitive type that I am, I'm coming up with all sorts of rumors as to the extremely strange Rule 34 material that they were enticed with. But yeah, like basically there was, I think the structure of the message was something along the lines of like, hey, I made this racing game. Can you check it out and give me some feedback? And you click the link, and of course, it's the internet, right? You click every link and you're safe. And presumably, given the way that this was conducted and the fact that they didn't really seem to know what they were doing as far as the Discord was concerned, just like they. I'm going to guess that was like they actually needed to not just download the thing, but actually run it. And anyways, however it happened, the guy loses his Discord. And then one of the big tells is a bunch of people got a message like that of like, hey, I made this racing game. Can you play it? And of course, some of the viewers know exactly what's going on, so they send out a message, kind of out of band, and let the guy know his account's been taken over. And then I think there were a couple of people who announced in the Discord, hey, the owner's like sending out phishing messages. And of course, that's a great way to get the channel in which that's said deleted. um, so, I mean, presumably you could just ban the guy as well. But however, whatever their reasoning was, effectively, they started deleting channels. But again, they didn't necessarily really know what they were going to do. Now, the problem here is I've answered your question with like the iteration. So I don't think hijacking. I think hijacking the Discord account doesn't count for much. I think hijacking the account does, because then that lets you spread the misery. Now, of course, the question is like, why spread to the other ones? And you presumably in that point it would just be, you're hoping that you can get access to something that you value, I'm guessing. The funny thing is that I am much better at security than I am before. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I changed it. But like, I was a dummy. I reused a password, didn't have multi-factor authentication. I actually didn't know I could have multi-factor authentication on this account. And there was typically a Russian who was squatting on my EA account. And I didn't know it. Had I been thinking, I would have noticed that a lot of my recommendations would started showing a lot of FIFA stuff, but I interpreted that as like FIFA being, yeah, no, that's exactly. I mean, like I'm assuming like an info stealer probably works a little more quietly. Or no, I think I get what you're saying is like it's an info stealer, and then they use that to take over the Discord. Yeah, that's almost certainly what happened. I don't think it would have been specifically for the Discord, but I mean, who knows, right? Like, but either way, like, it was not exactly a sophisticated delivery mechanism, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if I DM'd any of you, I mean, I guess at least some of you know that I know some programming, so I suppose from that, in that sense, it wouldn't be completely out of the ordinary to see like me sending some sort of like, game or whatever. But I'm also assuming probably some sight unseen, executable from me when you're not accustomed to getting such things. You probably might want to ask a couple questions. But anyways, however it happened, yeah, I think you're right, Underwater Monk, that basically the thing that they downloaded gave the credentials to whoever took over the Discord. But yeah, so the thing for me was I was just thinking that EA was being pretty aggressive in advertising FIFA because like it's such a profitable game for them. But what that was a signal that, as at least as far as EA was concerned, I was playing FIFA, and so it was making recommendations based on my FIFA play. And the funny thing is that I probably would not have ever noticed or done anything had they just like, used my account for FIFA stuff. But they, eventually they can't just leave it at that, right? They want to completely take over the accounts, and then they lock me out. And at that point, I'm like, I don't necessarily know that my account has been stolen, but it's really obvious that oh, actually, no, I remember exactly what triggered it. It was not just the fact that the password changed, and I believe I was notified about that, but I believe there was also a notification about changing the address to, it might even have been a like mail.ru address or something like that. Or something along those lines. It was like something really obvious. There's a Hotmail. Anyways, whatever I'm sure I could probably find this in my emails or something like that. But this is an endless story that's going on. So anyways, I know people like to hate on EA a whole lot. They have great customer service if your account has been taken over. Like I called it, like, it's not like I'm going to be able to do any kind of email or anything like that. Or if I do, like, there's very clearly a thing going on right now. And so it's better to get real-time support. So going through the options, the call seemed to be best. or maybe I did a chat and then they just said as like, you'll get a call in a couple minutes. And I got it. And yeah, I was talking to a security rep right away. They sort of said, they asked me a couple of questions about FIFA. I said, I've never played FIFA. They're like, uh-huh. And then they go through and take a look. It's like, okay. And so he says, like, so if I were to like get rid of all of this FIFA stuff, he says, it's like, yeah, I was going to say, based on your reaction, obviously somebody's been in this account. This explains the password change. Like, yeah, anything related to FIFA, like, go crazy. I just want the account back. Like, even if you had to clear all my saves, I'd be unhappy about it, but like not as unhappy as completely losing my EA account. So like probably within half an hour, all told, including like verifying my identity and all of that, I was back up and running, and the guy was kicked out. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised, because I know, again, if you ask gamers TM about EA, it's like the worst company in the world. But as far as like, hey, I like playing games, I subscribe to your thing, I can't play the games, someone's taken over my account. And again, I'm like 80% to blame, right? I didn't need to reuse that password. I didn't have multi-factor authentication. They did actually say, it's like, we would recommend to avoid something like this, to have multi-factor authentication. I'd said, it's like, honestly, I didn't know that was an option. Like, I will happily set that up. I think they even set it up for me, now that I think of it. But yeah, so all of that to say, right, is that I, having been the dummy, and even, to be honest, like now I definitely know better, but like, even then, I kind of knew I shouldn't be reusing passwords. But it's like, what are you going to do? Like, memorize 100 different passwords? It's, it's obviously that's a tall order. Now I use a password manager like a sensible person. But with that in mind, right? Like, I don't want to be too like, I don't want to condemn the person too much in terms of the what happened to them. But my guess here is that probably, once you have access to something, unless you are like probably a pro, I would guess that the temptation to just like spoil something is too great, right? Like, whatever is, it's not enough to just do the transmission mechanism. You might as well let people know that you were there, and and do some vandalism, right? And it's, it's kind of like if somebody goes into like to rob a place or something like that. Technically, they just need to take the valuables, but they're probably gonna like, make a mess and maybe trash some stuff as well. So, and it'd be nice if that, didn't happen, but it would also be nice if the theft didn't happen. So like, that's not the option that you have in the world. The only thing I will say is that I guess now, because I haven't said the name, I can feel a little bit better about it. The one thing that I do feel a bit bad about is I get the impression the person who is trying to recover, like the person who was the victim of the attack, tried to get their account restored over Twitter. And, Discord does have a Twitter support, but it's obviously not as carefully monitored as the normal customer support. And even that one apparently had a bit of a backlog at the time, maybe because of account recoveries. But the one person I've talked to who has had to recover a Discord account said that it was actually very straightforward to do. But I think the problem here is that this person, because they didn't get the response on Twitter, they've now kind of made it a thing. I think the point will be that they're making their principled stand to not like, not give in and like use the other method through Discord, or through normal Discord support. And like, I did try, when I found out about it, I did try to like inform Discord support, but the problem is the only thing you can do there is report a channel, and I'm not going to do that because that might just get the channel like banned. So in this case here, like it's almost certain that the thing's gone, which is one of the reasons why I tried to put together like an admittedly rather trolly replacement one. But it is what it is. That was a long and winding road. Like I said, I'm really tired today, so I'm going to be really ranty and probably not a whole lot of fun to watch, but I'll do my best. All right, you get into a good position. Actually, I will ask Ellen Ripley, what Sierra games have you played? You lose concentration and the spell fades. You will have to practice some more. Exactly what I plan to do. After 60 minutes, you rest, you feel better. Any minute now. You lose concentration and the spell fades. You will have to practice some more. So yeah, this is how we're spending our time. I guess I probably could have told that. Oh? I am good at video games. You place the seed into your pack. You've never seen anything quite like them. They're pretty in a grotesque way. All right, just going to take a minute here to go back to my map. So I was actually expecting this to take a lot longer. Sunset approaches on day 4. All right, so I'll try and get to the Dryad. Hostile intent is evident. You prepare for battle. Okay. You search your opponent. What a waste. No treasure. You've played Space Quest. Oh, so the very first Space Quest? Because wasn't that like a text parser? You say Phantasmophobia. I think you mean Phantasmagoria, right? Leisure Suit Larry and the Incredible... Oh. Is the Incredible Machine like a builder one? These battle messages read like a cop justifying their illegal use of force. He was coming right for me. You know what? If Night is Still Young, there's a bunch of scary... there's a bunch of scary stuff coming in. Yeah, well, like, the other thing, too, is that, like, Leisure Suit Larry was kind of the subject of a mild moral panic. And I was going to say probably a proper moral panic when it came to Twitch. So I think it was probably more the reputation rather than any of the content. Leisure Suit Larry is pretty mild. It definitely has some pretty old-fashioned humor. Oh, God. Yeah, like the humor is definitely outdated. But like, I don't know. Like I feel like the reputation exceeds the actual content. Now, in fairness, I haven't seen the other ones, right? I think I've played the first one, and that was like the VGA version or remat. Like basically this version, this edition or whatever of Leisure Suit Larry. But yeah, I think probably I would not be surprised if some of the modern ones, like the modern ones, are made with like the existence of the ESRB and the PEGI system and all of that. So there isn't that I think there's like there seems to be a bit more of an established ratings body that you can point to and say like, yeah, that's okay. But again, I also wouldn't be surprised if the rules have changed. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've seen, at least in terms of like, you know, recommended to you channels, I've seen stuff in thumbnails that I consider to be more questionable than anything you'd see in a Leisure Suit Larry game. Again, unless they get considerably more hardcore in some of the later ones. Yeah, I've never played. I actually haven't even seen Phantasmagoria, but it's one that seems to come up a lot. Was that like a sequel to The Seventh Guest by any chance? And Space Quest is very, very funny. I don't think I've done number 4. I think the one I saw was number 5, but I definitely liked its I liked its style for sure. All right, the sweet, juicy fruit of the tree is amazingly satisfying and refreshing. You get no response. Large stone appears to be ancient and deliberately placed. Marks carved into the stone almost look like writing. No amount of physical effort will be able to move this stone. How long until classic video games are seen as legit art and conservatives have to begrudgingly allow Leisure Suit Larry the same way they begrudgingly accept Liberty Leading the People being displayed in public? It's funny, I don't know, I'm wondering what the conservative attitudes towards sex are now, because I've actually been burnishing my... Yeah, when I talk about the outdated... when I talk about the outdated attitudes, it's actually more, there's a, one of the convenience store clerks that you run into has like an obvious accent, and like I think at some point you call him Saddam. So like, I remember reading that part out. I'm like, that definitely hits a little different in, you know, the year of our life. I don't think we were in the 2020, maybe like 2020 or 2019 or something like that. It's like, definitely that one it's getting close to the line of things I might read on, you know, on a stream, just because, you know, I think you need to be kind of conscious of how people will take that even out of context. But yeah, like in terms of the, like, I would say I would question whether or not any of the content in Leisure Suit Larry is worse than Wedding Crashers. Like, I think Wedding Crashers is like an old movie now, but like I think that is widely accepted as the sort of thing you can talk about in polite society. You know, it may not exactly communicate a whole lot of maturity, but it's not sort of like it's a thing that people will not, it's not going to be like you're talking about Deep Throat at the dinner table. Although in like the 1970s, like the whole reason why like Deep Throat is a code name is because there was this whole phenomena. I think the New York Times called it porno chic. It is actually something I've really wanted to write about for such a long time, because I thought it did a great job of explaining this like explosion of quote unquote adult games on Steam, and, you know, like sort of what you could expect. Because like the thing is that I think you can probably do like an adult game I mean, let's just call it a porn game, right? Because I think I was like, an adult game. Oh, you mean like a, you know, an extended meditation on history? Like, no, I'm talking about boobs. Like, oh, okay. So, let's call it what it is. But the thing for those is that it would be wrong to say, that, these games don't sell, right? Like if you turn off all the filters for Steam, you will actually see, you will work it into your next cybersecurity thought. No. What you need to do, Ellen Ripley, is you can combine that with securing your account from phishing attempts by not clicking on despicable Rule 34 Mortal Kombat pornography. I don't care how hot you think Motoro is. I understand that every woman deep down just wants a jacked centaur. But don't click that link. I'm begging you. Or at the very least, turn on multi-factor authentication. Anyway, sorry, I'm totally losing the plot. I think at this point here, this is like just chatting with occasional outbursts of Quest for Glory. But anyway, yeah. So like one of the things I did want to write about this was the reason I did this the very first time was I was trying to do a model of Steam's top 10, like their monthly top 10 sellers, knowing that the list was not necessarily an ordinal ranking of the top 10. It was the set of the top 10 sellers by revenue on Steam. And I was trying to work out some ways to tease out how I might be able to get some sort of an ordering between them, and largely related to maybe the year-end numbers, or like people like talking about the Boxlighter number and so on and so forth. So I did that, and the thing that's kind of nice when you like, I really liked studying economics, but one of the things that I really appreciated is that once you get out of a classroom, once you have to do like a real project, and ideally, like I learned a lot doing replications of existing papers, but like doing an honest to God, I have to sit down and think through, like I need to find a data source, and I need to ask a question, and I need to make sure that the data that I'm working with is, answering this question, like doing problems with like hair on them and like, that just don't make any sense sometimes, is like, it's probably the most valuable way of learning. Although I would want to acknowledge that I probably found that more effective because I had done that prior work of like the nice and tidy data sets in textbooks, and doing replications where there's a little bit of a model for how to approach this before you start doing your own changes. And in the case of this one, like the numbers were not making sense. Like I could clearly see, I didn't necessarily know what the answer was, but I knew what I was getting could not be the answer. And then it occurred to me that one set was using Steam's API, right? So I was getting it directly from Steam. The other set I was using based on browsing, right? What I was like, I was going to a site, I was getting a list, I was typing in that list, and so on and so forth. And like theoretically, you could set up a scraper or whatever, but like it wasn't that many, so I just did it by hand. So then I go, and that was the moment where I'm like, wait a minute. So I originally thought it was going to be a language filter thing. I was like, maybe there's a bunch of like, maybe simplified Chinese or whatever the largest, I'm assuming English is probably the largest on Steam, but whatever like a large language category would be, is like, maybe that's it. Because there's definitely been some stories where when people do certain localizations that the game will blow up. So, I remove the filter, but at this point it's like, well, I'm not going to think, I'm not going to just say, oh, only remove the language, but don't do the content filters. Like, no, I got to get rid of all the filters. And, at this point, this is a great way, by the way, to completely ruin your recommendations. I was not getting a game recommended to me for months after doing this. Because, of course, I'm clicking through and getting the Steam numbers for all of these things as well. So as far as Steam was concerned, I had seen the face of God. And I knew what I wanted. In any case, as soon as I do that, as soon as I put the porn in, all of the numbers start lining up. All of it makes sense. I was like, okay, I see where this is going. So, but then because I knew about Porno Chic and this really weird period where there were genuinely in like papers of record opinion pieces where people were talking about how the pornography industry was going to effectively bankrupt Hollywood because they were so, the movies were so profitable and cost so little to make that there was no way you would be able to compete. That, you know, Hollywood needed to spend, you know, tens of millions. We weren't yet at the hundreds of millions phase in making movies. But that, you know, Hollywood would spend, you know, millions, tens of millions to make prestige, to, you know, to have a shot at earning the kind of money that some of the, you know, the really famous ones would make. I think even like Roger Ebert had like a phase where he was reviewing some of the more quote unquote respectable pornographic films that became a sensation during this era. But I mean, obviously that's not how that turned out, right? That was just a very weird phase, which I think seems to be largely forgotten. But to me, like, I think it's one that's interesting to consider in light of some of the things that you see with the, you know, the more open approaches on storefronts. And like the best I can sort of say is that if you're going to do a game like that, the weird thing is I actually think the best comparison I could make would be to Warhammer 40K games. Where, and I have actually written a blog that sort of said this before, so sorry for those of you that have read that one before. But like, you know, Warhammer 40K has like a really fanatical, dedicated fan base that will seemingly buy anything with like shouty men with shoulder pads on it. And likewise, right, there is another very devoted, you know, audience that will seemingly buy anything with a large-breasted cat girl on it. But the thing is that there is a, more so than, you know, for the cinema verite side of the romance genre, like, it's clear that like some of the Warhammer 40K games sell very well because they're very good. But I would argue for a lot of those other ones, like they'll do, I actually like this term from Weather Factory, commodity numbers, right? Like you know, if you can make it at a low cost, you might make a bit of money, but like you're not swinging for a Stardew Valley with something like that. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone will like totally prove me wrong, and like there will be the smutty Stardew Valley or something like that. But like, it's just I wouldn't bet on it personally, right? And I figure if you want to achieve financial success, you probably need to do it the old-fashioned way. You have to say this? I'm very curious now. You hate Stardew Valley? I haven't played it that much. So maybe if you know, you get the slightly more hardcore one, it might be for you. I feel like we're in a similar phase with adult games. I can't imagine that in the cultural climate, with the far right still gaining power and the anti-porn TikTok community gaining steam, that porn games will stay as available as they are now for long. You don't want to clean up a fake garden after work. Oh, you don't want a job. I get it. Yeah, I don't know, Underwater. I mean, like, it's a very tricky one. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like, I guess it depends on the read of how ascendant it is. Because, like, the thing is that, and this was where I was going to kind of go on some of the political stuff. Like, I think it would be fair to say that at least some of the, you know, the hardcore conservative types were willing to accept hush money to a literal porn star. Like, that was not considered an obstacle when weighed against greater political gain. Now, on the other hand, you have probably not the same faction, but like a similar one that will put pressure on payment providers to to try and stamp out content that they don't think should be on platforms. Like, that is the sort of censoriousness. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't actually feel that great about how porny a lot of stuff is, and it's not really related in the sense that I just happen to think that these are things that I'm sort of interested in colliding. But I've actually been reading, let me see if I can get it. It's by a culture writer from The Atlantic, Girl on Girl, How Pup Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. And I think what I like about this one is that, like, it is definitely drawing from a number of authors that I don't normally read. So I think this is a more digestible version of some, like, I don't even know what genre to call it, but like but basically, like, it's an interesting take on sort of millennial pop culture, and some of the values that it communicated, and I'm intrigued by it, especially because, like, there are some, like, there's been a good example of this would be, there's been a reevaluation of American Beauty, obviously. And I think a lot of that has come from the accusations against Kevin Spacey. But what I find really, because, like, that was like a major, like, that, I mean, that launched Sam Mendes' career. Everybody thought that was like the best movie ever. And, like, the funny thing is that my opinions about that movie haven't changed a whole lot from the first time that I saw it to, like, now. I still think, like, the Ricky character is quite pretentious. I never really liked a lot of those scenes. Like, I generally liked the movie, so, I don't want to pretend like I'm sitting there hating it, but, like, there's definitely a few moments where I'm sort of rolling my eyes. I didn't necessarily see Lester, the Kevin Spacey characters. I didn't see him as admirable. I mean, I thought there was maybe something a little bit nicer about his realization, that, behaving like a man-child is not, not the way. I'm trying to remember the character's name. I think it's Angela. Anyways, it's the cheerleader. It's his daughter's friend that he's lusting for. I always thought she was the most interesting character in it. And it's because I think the actress does a phenomenal job, even from the very start. To me, it is quite apparent that she is putting on a front. She is behaving in a way that people, expect of her. And, obviously it's intended to be sort of more of a big reveal when she says that she's a virgin. But, like, I've never been able to watch that movie. I mean, obviously there's the reveal, so you have full knowledge the second time you watch it and later. But, like, I've never been able to watch that movie and not see her basically be playing a character in sort of an insecure way. And again, I think that's really a testament to that actress's abilities. And that is the character that I find quite a bit more interesting. And then, I mean, the thing is that I don't necessarily know if that's what I was supposed to get out of the movie, but I also don't think it's inconsistent with it, right? With all of the, sort of voyeurism and the way people want to present themselves and so on and so forth. So, I mean, probably the movie was maybe a bit overpraised when it came out before, but, like, the idea of this, like, major cultural reckoning over it, I think is maybe just the idea. I think this is roughly equivalent to a bunch of people who saw Fight Club and thought that Project Mayhem was a really good idea, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that's a fault of Fight Club if you don't, if you walk away with that idea. Sorry, this is like the millennial movie hour here, because I'm pretty sure Fight Club and American Beauty came out at roughly the same time, right? Anyways, I need to pack away a few ideas here. So, but like the thing is that I think the Puritans get too much hate for what they actually did. They had very active and healthy sex lives. Maybe the best way I can explain this is that I always thought it was really interesting that Cyberpunk 2077 has the most extreme form of the advertising, right? Stuff that basically you would see in like a, you know, dingy back of the shop kind of section, you know, for magazines. In its advertising. And I always took that as a bit of satire, but also a bit of a statement of the world of cyberpunk, in the sense that, you know, you have this body modification, you have this, you know, you have this amalgamation of sort of flesh and chrome and, you know, easily available beauty. The advent of things like cyberpsychosis, and in the end, like what is being revealed to the world is people want flesh, right? They want people, and the satire part, of course, comes into the idea of just these increasingly extreme lengths that you'll see advertisers go. I remember there was like a Bill Hicks routine about. Like, I've actually only ever heard it in audio, so I'm assuming it's like some spread eagle woman or something like that, and it just puts the words over it, like drink Coke. You know, I think that routine probably would have been coming out around the time that Cyberpunk was originally conceived. So I think probably that's as much of a statement in terms of like 90s era advertising and more. I guess the other thing too is that one thing that is hard for me to sort of consider, but this would probably be around the time everybody's freaking out about AIDS, right? So all of a sudden, you know, watching stuff is maybe a bit safer than actually doing things. But for whatever reason, right? Like for me, when I look at Cyberpunk, I think there's something kind of interesting going on there. But like, I also know, like, when you save the woman at the start, you know, she's bare-chested and you hold her completely different from every other character, so that there is a breast on the screen at all times. And of course it jiggles a bit because, you know, well, you just got to show how good the graphics are, right? Like, there's really no reason to do that. I mean, there's no reason not to do that, I guess. But it's just one of these things where you can have something interesting about sort of social values that are communicated through the advertising in Cyberpunk, and then something that's very obviously in there for teenagers. And like one just struck me as very tacky, whereas the other one was sort of kind of interesting. And I kind of feel that way about a lot of the again, a lot of the pornification of material. I don't really like censoriousness. I don't like people telling each other like what they can and can't see. But I'm not entirely sure I'm super comfortable with the idea of, you know, oh, I did this because of liberation, right? And that liberation just happens to look exactly the same as the sort of thing that at another time we might have called exploitation. And that isn't necessarily to suggest that, you know, again, it's not to say I think we should like shut down OnlyFans or anything like that, but there's a certain point where I kind of wish people would just acknowledge, you know, you don't need to go to the extreme in each case, which of course is what pornography is, right? It's like the most direct satisfaction of a particular want. And I guess for my own case, like for the same reason that I'm gonna feel a little gross if I like go and eat like 6 chocolate bars in a row, and you kind of, I think you can do that in a lot of cases where you just immediately satisfy a want. just because I have the same feeling that, it might feel really good in the moment, but I'm not going to feel great about it, in the long run. It's probably not good for me. Likewise, not going to rant against premarital sex. I'm not saying you can't look at a sexy picture or anything like that, but just maybe recognizing that there is a broader spectrum, and not every urge doesn't need to be satisfied at a given moment. And I do just kind of wish that there was a better balance than we seem to have been able to have achieved. There's actually, I'm trying to remember the exact line from the Diamond Age, but it describes this sort of neo-Victorian society in which they sort of were given. I'm trying to remember. There's it's this interesting description of a bunch of different extremes that society could have gone to, and that they all just sort of collectively at some point said, no, we're gonna be mature about this. Yeah, well, that's just it, right? That, I don't think that needs to be legislated. I guess the thing for me is that I'm not entirely sure legislating any of this stuff is the way to do it. For the same reason, I think it's bad that, people are leaning on credit card companies to try and stop material that they don't think should be out in the world. I mean, within reason. I don't think things that are illegal should be, in there. But I mean, you don't need you don't need a grassroots movement for that, right? You require the police. And the thing to me is that I think the sort of maturity and temperance that leads you to say, don't eat 6 chocolate bars in a row. If you need to legislate that, I think that is quite a concession that you are making, right? You're saying that you don't trust people to be able to come to that realization to themselves. And I feel like we're giving up a lot if we need to do that, right? Or likewise, I've specifically gone out of my way and made sure that I am dedicating time for reading, which again leads me to do big rants during Quest for Glory. But I don't know, it's one of these things where it's so much easier for me to do another round of Outlast Trials, but wouldn't it be nice if I put a little bit of effort into that thing I know I like doing once I'm into it, and then I wind up reading stuff I wouldn't have otherwise seen. Hello, Birdie Lala. There's a writer called David Foster Wallace. Familiar with the name? I actually wish I have read more of his stuff, especially his essays. I can't say I've tried The Infinite Jest, but it's definitely one that I want to try out. He wrote about this often in his fiction, the idea that self-discipline is crucial in the modern world in order not to become a slave to self-gratification. Yeah, okay. All the more reason for me to read him then, I think. So if anything, actually, I guess there's something very interesting. Clearly a lot of what I'm talking about here is excellent. Thank you, Birdie Lala. I'll definitely do so. I think there's actually probably something to be said for the fact that a lot of what I've been talking about is reflected in the fact that I'm reading this book on sort of millennial pop culture. And I mean, obviously Porno Chic is sort of a generation or two behind that. But I think probably David Foster Wallace would probably be writing around the time that this book Girl on Girl is talking about. So I would not be entirely surprised if just some of the preoccupations of that time are just sort of coming to the fore through what I'm talking about here. But yeah, I really appreciate the recommendation. Thank you for that. But yeah, in any case, Underwater Monk, just to sort of put a bow on the thing, I guess the question would be what you think is sort of culturally ascended at the moment. Because I definitely see how there are certain threads, but it's also kind of hard in the moment to see where things are going. So if you feel that it's a force that's still rising, then yeah, you may see a higher degree of censoriousness. But on the other hand, I'm not entirely clear. I think the form it would take in my view, is probably a little bit less about moral panic. And actually, weirdly enough, I know you talked about the far right. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this is more so of a more progressive thing, because obviously that one, I think we have a few more examples in terms of people saying specifically what you can or can't say. And the mechanisms haven't usually been legislation. They've usually been sort of, ostracizing someone or a pile-on. And that I tend to find seems to be happening the most when there used to be a really big, kind of a growing area. So I think it's not a coincidence that YA fiction was growing a whole lot for a while, and then once it's contracting, all of a sudden you start seeing, these pile-ons for people, putting out a bad tweet or something like that. So that's obviously different. I mean, that one, at least on paper, would say that, it's sex positive, so they would never go after pornography. But I mean, I don't know if that extends to, the sort of stuff you would see on Steam. I also don't necessarily think you would have necessarily seen people like that calling for the banning of books might be a little extreme, but some of the positions that they hold, I'm not entirely sure if you had stated them plainly to people that they are ones that they necessarily would have said they would have supported off the as a principled stand, as opposed to something related to the specifics. But I don't know, right? Like I said, this stuff is really hard to see. It's very hard to see where things are going, because very often, at least my experience is when there's a movement or a moment, I'm usually only ever able to identify it after the change has happened, right? Once it's the sort of thing that makes the news. So I guess the example I would give you is that there's a subset of people who played Among Us before it was an online multiplayer game. And there was another group of people who played it after it became an online multiplayer game, but around the time it was more maybe their friend had recommended it to them. And then, I'm going to find out about Among Us when it's been on the top sellers of Steam forever, and it's the subject of news articles and things like that. And by that point, right, it's too late. The moment has already arrived. So, it's not that it's not like the conditions were not present for me to see that Among Us was going to become a big thing. But, forecasting's hard. It's difficult, particularly in cultural stuff, because it's all around you. And I do know the one, there's an interview I saw with David Foster Wallace. I don't know if this is an anecdote from him or if he's just repeating an old joke, but where there's two young fish going through, one of the older fish comes up, is like, "Hey boys, how's the water?" And goes by, and one of the other fish says to the other one, it's like, "What's water?" So that's not a bad example for saying how it's really hard to sort of take the temperature, because the stuff that seems like it's dominant today could actually already be sort of at its plateau and potentially on the kind of the swing down. Anyway, I feel like I've been ranting a whole lot. I don't think I'm being very coherent, and I think I wanted to say some ideas and then kind of got lost in the ramble. And normally I'm pretty good at packing and unpacking the Matryoshka doll, but I did not get a lot of sleep for the past couple of days, so I think I should just cut my losses. And just acknowledge here, Ellen Ripley does not want to clean up a fake garden after work. But what about before work? What about romancing the fisherman? Or maybe the Fisher Milady? I don't know, I've never played it. Alright. Can I open the stone? Cool! The scroll vanishes even as you read the magical runes upon it. You now have the knowledge to cast a calm spell. Oh, I think this actually stops... I think this stops the baddies from killing me. Or, like, fighting me. There's an emo guy? Basically how it goes in real life. Oh, this is another one. I broke down and I was like, okay, let me, this is horrible and degrading, but let me try the apps again. And so I tried go through like the whatever sign up thing. And at the end, it asks for a phone number. I'm like, are you serious? I already thought it was a huge compromise to give that much personal information in one spot. It was like, okay, it's, I'll try and be less of a paranoid weirdo. And then at the end, it's like, because they know it's like, you don't want to give up your phone number, do you? So I'll just put it at the end of this task. And I'm like, no, none shall pass. So I have all the misery of knowing that I broke, but none of the benefit. I can't even be rejected by the emos now. You awake as the sun begins to rise. All right. Let's go visit the Dryad. Again, I'm sorry for the long. I think the thing is, I don't mind doing a rant. I would prefer it if the rant had actually finished the topic that it came up, because I sort of feel like I started talking about porno chic but didn't actually finish the job. On the topic of the game, I will say, I do think one thing, you search your opponent, you find 8 silver coins and carefully place them in your pouch. I do think one thing that's really interesting about this, there are a few Sierra adventure games that I've played. I've played Mixed Up Mother Goose. I've played Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers. Pretty sure I've played at least one Space Quest game. I might have even played a King's Quest game now that I think of it. Let's give the bandit some distance. Or maybe... Nope. Hostile intent is evident. You prepare for battle. Okay, not a battle I normally want to take, but you search your opponent, you find 15 silver coins, and carefully place them in your pouch. But yeah, this is, I will confess, and then of course I played a lot of the LucasArts games, but this does seem like a really interesting combination to actually do a couple of, to actually have proper role-playing and like combat. System Shock rants during gameplay are the sweetener in the tea. The rants during the first playthrough of Traveling at Night will be legendary. Well, okay, the first playthrough of Traveling at Night, if it happens on like the Steam stream, maybe I'll try and keep the rants to an appropriate minimum. But the second playthrough. Now it looks like I maybe mislabeled one of the sections here. Oh God, yeah. You seem to have startled the white stag. Again, you feel a sense of closeness with nature. What a beautiful animal. Milady? Have you brought the seed I requested? Yes. You drop the seed into the dryad's limbs. Now this will boldly grow where none has grown before. Heed now my words, friends of the forest, and heed them well. Friend, you must know that there is an evil in this valley which perverts the ways of nature. The prophecy says that a hero will bring a young human from out of this darkness. If you are the one to accomplish this task, there is a potion to break enchantments which the healer can make for you. You must gather these ingredients. Oh God, I've got more homework. Sorry, just taking a minute here to... Flowers from Irana's Peace. Green fur. Oh, I think I know where I can get that. Fairy dust. No idea on that one. A magic acorn. And flying water. Farewell, friend. I must return to my concentration. May the forest forever surround you. You see an acorn fall slowly to the ground. You pick up the Dryad's gift of a magic acorn. That's one of the ingredients! Okay, I'm going to correct my map, but the funny thing is, I actually want to go north. I'm not going to, just because I do want to correct this. Okay, I'm just going to double check something here. So if I go one up and then one to the left should be the mushrooms. Yep. So that's where I went wrong. I should have tried the comm again. Okay, so I need to add a downward path here. I'm going to just also take a second. So my expectation would be the bottom path should be blocked. Yeah. By golly, it's an Antwerp. Antwerps are on the endangered species list. They are rarely seen. Okay, just bear with me a second here. I need to update my map. And there's one to the right. You bravely attack the bouncing beast with your bare hands. Probably should save before I start doing anything too ridiculous. You get no response. Suddenly a feeling of peace and tranquility permeates the area. Antwerps have too bouncy a nature to ever be truly calm. That was worth a shot. Fascinating. Despite your mightiest efforts, the rock does not move. Find a keyhole concealed in a crack in the lock. Open, says me. Your spell has unlocked the lock on the rock, but it is not yet powerful enough to open the rock door. I am good at video. Ah! Before you can react, the troll is upon you, and the encounter begins. What a monster. It was a tough battle, and you lost. Never fear, all you have to do is restore your game, and what do you mean, restore what game? I don't think we lost too much. Yeah, so it's going to force the encounter. I'm going to guess this is not an encounter I should be going for right now. Actually, there is one last thing I can check, which would be sneaking. You're about as stealthy as the average goon. Okay, so it's not going to let me sneak at all? Yeah. Hello, Valiant Cheese. All right. Again, just going to take a minute here to update the map I was drawing. It's likely a boot or a pie you need to find first. I don't know if I can survive this encounter. I should have tried to use the calm. We'll see if we can cast that in time. Suddenly, a feeling of peace and tranquility permeates the area. A brigand is not necessarily the worst fighter I could be going up against, and maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to get a little practice throwing fireballs. Okay, it didn't last that long. You have a bad feeling about this place. You have an even worse feeling about this place. I'm gonna make a note. Don't mind me. Ah! Hostile intent is evident. You prepare for battle. Ah! Okay, let's see if I can survive the encounter now. I am good at video games. You search your opponent. You find 10 silver coins and carefully place them in your pouch. Well, I finally hit the point where I'm not getting completely, like, demolished. Uh-oh. Okay. I don't know why that was just thinking so. Yeah. It's like the second brigand that I've taken out. But yeah, so like obviously there's been progress in the sense that like I'm no longer just stomping on goblins for fun. I think it's also very clear if I try to go after oh god, how am I gonna do this? I've used up all my magic, so really I should be going somewhere to rest. Not quite what I wanted, but I should be okay. But yeah, anyways, what I was trying to say, the hollow log looks somberly back with its single giant eye, and you know at once that nothing is to be gained by investigating this gaunt relic of a more vertical past. Gonna try anyway. Yeah, so like I said, I think it's fair to say that there's been progress of a kind, but not the kind of progress that will let me take on that troll. All right. Let's see if... It doesn't seem like I'm getting new dialogue options as I go through, so I will spare him the trouble. You pick out the freshest looking vegetables you can find and pay the lady a silver piece. You carefully select 10 of the best apples from the barrel and pay Hildy a silver piece. Okay. Now, what spells do I have? I have... No, spells don't seem to work here. I did find basically through... I can't say it was like pure chance. It was like very mild experimentation, but I basically lucked into calm. I have fire. I have enhanced weapon because that you get by default. Open and telekinesis or fetch or whatever they call it. What do you want? It did tell me earlier to avoid the dragon's breath. If you want a mug of dragon's breath, house rules say it'll have to be cash up front. You cough up the cash. Thanks, buddy. Hey, Crusher, our friend here wants dragon's breath. There you go. You've never tasted anything like it before. Oh, wow! Talk about a fiery brew. Maybe you really shouldn't have tried the dragon's breath. Better luck next time, and we hope you saved your game. Okay, this is the sort of stuff where, like, to a certain extent, I love the absolute balls on Sierra for doing this sort of thing to say, like, hey, you might have just lost hours of progress. Hope you saved your game. We know we killed you for no reason. And yet I imagine this is exactly the sort of thing that will cause people to crash out and declare that effectively any game made before like 2010 is is unplayable. I guess I should rest a little bit. After 60 minutes rest, you feel better. Right in front of the sheriff, too. Well, who's this trustworthy-looking fellow? What's in it for me? If you give me a silver, I might have a bit of info you can use. For another silver, I can tell you about where to go and find the Baron, Baba Yaga, or some goblins who have a lot of treasure. So if you want some information, hand me some cat. You didn't even give me the information in the first place. Tell me about monsters. Lots of monsters in this valley. Most of them are wimps, though. What about the let's say the warlock? He's some kind of magic user, and he laughs a lot. That's all I know. The Antwerp. Yeah, the Antwerp is a good monster for you to fight. It loves to play. Goblins. The little pests are just northwest of the cemetery. They're a bunch of wimps. I haven't checked the cemetery again. What's your name? Just call me Bruno. Baba Yaga? She's an ugly hag who lives in a weird house who knows some magic. Her place is due west of the Baron's place. Can't miss it. And for 2 gold, I'll tell you how to get into her hut. Baron? Just take the road north from here, past the healers, and till you go to his castle. Yeah, I don't need any of this stuff. Healer? She's got some good potions. Her hut's just north of here. All right. Not a silver well spent, but I think I've got enough. Yeah, 7 gold pieces is fine. So I'm going to try and deliver some vegetables. If you want a good time, try the dragon's breath at the bar. Ah, you. It would be slightly amusing, by the way, if the password for that troll was Ken sent me. Bargain? Find me some fruit to mellow my mead horn. Gift I will give of a gem that now glows. Jewel from Jotunheim, flare of the frost flame. Fetch to me fruit that will fill up my fists. Looks like it'll take a lot of fruit to fill up those fists. Apple. Your meager selection of fruit makes a paltry pile at the bottom of the giant's cupped hands. You will need quite a few more apples to fill those hands. There is a side of me that wants to just like reload, but let's do the walk of shame. Looks like a dinosaur trudging grumpily to work. Of course. No point in trying to use one of those. I have to wonder what it would be like to have more random moments like that in. I guess so. I do have to wonder how much better our gaming would be if there are just random moments like that in games. I'm sure there's like a reference that I'm not getting, but uh I also wonder if that character who tells you to try the dragon's breath, if he shows up after you've died to the dragon's breath. If not, I can see a very sad set of circumstances where, uh-oh. Fire! Fire! I guess I get to buy more apples. Do a quick rest.
Next to the town's wall, you notice a man who appears to be waiting for someone. His dagger looks like a particularly deadly weapon, and the thief handles it with great skill. And according to this, we're 20% through the game. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. Really? 30 wasn't enough? Hollow my food house, for my hunt has been hindered by having to hurry here from my home. Find me some fruit, for to mellow my mead horn, gift I will give of a gem that now glows, jewel from Jotunheim, flare of the frost flame. Fetch to me fruit that will fill up my fists. So I'm wondering if this is if this isn't a question of this may not be a question of quantity, but rather finding a different kind of fruit. But it's maybe not so obvious to me where I would find that. All right, well, I think it's still worth we get to watch this again. It looks like a dinosaur trudging grumpily to work. The thing that I like about this is that because I have absolutely no context for this reference, it works perfectly well as a completely random moment in a game that's just sort of like, okay, sure. a working man dinosaur on his way to Spielberg. Why not? What I may do though, if I may. I know I can't like put up the break sign or anything like that, but as I have been saying more than a few times, I'm very, very tired, and it's a little bit past what would normally be the halfway mark. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a minute to just go maybe put the kettle on, have a bit of a stretch, and otherwise just try and move around for a little bit so I can try and get some energy back. The drawback here, of course, is I don't have any way of communicating that there is a break on the screen or anything like that. Feel free to write it in all capital letters in the chat or something like that. I'll try and keep it short. I won't mute the stream or anything like that, just because if I do that, it's gonna break the focus on the window. But I will try to be back reasonably quickly. But if I fall asleep, hey, Revive Snow, good to see you. But yeah, assuming I don't like fall asleep, we'll be back for some more Quest for Glory, and we'll see if we can figure out how to feed a giant, or otherwise, I don't know. I still want to see the little furry things, and then yeah, I've got like 3 threads I can pull on, so. I'll see you all in a bit. Thanks. So my guess would be no, for the simple reason that on the passage of time, I mean, my guess would be no simply because the combat, like people stop approaching you in combat as well. So it'd be a little weird, but thank you, Revives No. All right, I'm going to try apples again. So we got 3 last time. $60 apples. More apples than anyone will ever need. And obviously a waste of money, but I don't have as many things I want to spend gold on. So in terms of now that I've gotten the rhyme again, that should be the way that I can open the path to Baba Yaga. I do have at least 2 ideas for the components. I think it's this way. I should probably have my map up. Now we got it. So I think they're the little meeps. One of them was green. So presumably I get the fur from it. I've got the acorn. And then when it says flying water, the best bet that I have would be the waterfall. So those are the ones that like immediately come to me. But like obviously being fruit you have found to fill my food stores, thus filled the bargain, my gem you have bought. Braugi has bartered, and all has been answered. The mead it may mellow, and now I head home. Braugi strides off through his cave on his way back to his northern home. What? I don't get to go in? The cave looks very eerie and ominous. Better watch out, those icicles look sharp. God, typical Sierra, saving all of this for the DLC. This should have been part of the base game. Okay, I do need to consult my map now. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to go straight to the left. Actually, the other thing I can do, I don't necessarily want to... I don't necessarily have it... Oh, so if somebody ever have the time, I'd like to make a mod for this game that adds or expands a bunch of the locations, gives you post-endgame stuff to do further explore. Oh, I was just kidding. Just a minute while I raise the gate. Yeah, it occurred to me I should maybe go to the stables a little more often. Looks like it's getting kind of late in the day. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Midday. But it did say that the stables are how I can get stronger. And given the fact that I probably will want to... There's nothing to do here. Given that I'm probably going to want to... use magic more than like actually fighting. this seems like it would be not a bad option. I see you're back. Need some work? Yes. Good. Come in here and take a rake. I don't pay you to rest. Get to work now. Okay, come on over here. The stableman hands you some coins and says, now you're 5 silvers richer. Got nothing more to say to him. Sunset approaches, so let's see if we can... I guess the bit of good news is, if I don't make it to Baba Yaga, it's at least sort of on the way to Iramis Peace. I think it's fair to say I don't want to get in any fights. For that reason, I'm going to go out and around the goblin patch. Well, is it a deal or isn't it? Yes. All I ask is a little gem or jewel that glows in the dark. You're the big hero, so go find one. You have one glowing gem. You place the glowing gem inside the skull. I can see! I have eyes again! Yeah, that's what you look like. Ah, well, have fun visiting Baba Yaga, and good luck. You'll need it. I hope you can remember the rhyme. You get no response. There we go. You hear a voice in your head asking, what is the rhyme? Beauty, the alien from Venus, hut of brown. You tell the hut of brown, now sit down. I am good at video games. Look, pets, we have a visitor. She looks very different from how I imagined. Powers of night, shadows of day. Heed now my words. Henceforth you stay. Your body is frozen by the power of the witch's spell. Well, dearies, what shall we have for supper today? Hey, Tiberias. Hero sandwiches? I had something more formal in mind. Ah, that's it. Frog legs fricassee. How does that spell go? Hear me, O powers of Clara Clatha and Mana. Turn now my guest into species called Rana. I learned that spell from Erasmus, kids. Doesn't it look delicious? I don't think I'm getting out of this one. Be still! Critics, we all can't be gourmands, I suppose. Now, oh soon-to-be supper, I don't suppose you have a name? Yes. You try your best to croak out your name, or at least let the witch know that you do indeed have one. As you make a feeble croaking sound, you try to nod your head. So you're the one who's trying to be a hero around here. The only hero's a good hero's a dead hero, I always say. But I do have a need for a brave fool. Are you brave? Yes. You make little froggy sounds, trying your best to indicate your agreement. Well, if you're willing to do a small, teensy favor for me, I might reconsider having you for supper. I need the root of a mandrake plant that grows in the graveyard. Will you be as sweet and fetch me some? Yes. Anything but frog legs fricassee, you think? You croak your agreement to the task. And I had my mouth watering for frog. Oh well. Hear what I say and hear me right. Mandrake must be pulled at precisely midnight. This I tell you, and this I say, return with the root ere the break of next day. Hear what I say, and know I don't lie. Bring back the root, or else you will die. You, shoo! From a distance, you hear the witch intone. Oops, I very nearly forgot. Hear me, O powers of mana and more. Turn this fool back as he was before. As you contemplate the occurrences of the last few minutes, you conclude that you'd better find a mandrake root for Baba Yaga, and fast. So, with very little health, I am now going to the graveyard. To 5 health. Well, I mean, that's all I could ask for, really. Run for your lives! I'm slightly annoyed. I think I know how to get to the graveyard, but I'm slightly annoyed at myself for not better labeling it. Coins, rations, armor, a dagger, stones, a bottle. I don't even remember what this is. Oh, healing potion, vegetables, an acorn, water-filled flask, mushrooms, and paper. Okay, so I have mislabeled my map, apparently. I wonder which one of these is the mandrake root. The large stone you are facing has been engraved with this message. Here lies Lester Moore, gored 6 times by a wild boar. No less, no more. A massive grate covers this hole, keeping you from seeing the bottom. The graves seem to be placed haphazardly in the tiny graveyard. All appear to be old and poorly maintained. A large tombstone seems to have a barely legible epitaph. Here lies an atheist, all dressed up and nowhere to go. Growing up out of the grave is an evil-looking plant with a slimy, poisonous sheen. So one of the reasons why I do multiple
saves is so I have the option of going back to like before I made this questionable choice with Baba Yaga. Hi, Hit People Guy. I'm playing the Magic User, which turns out to be a terrible choice. You wrench the mandrake plant free from the tombstone on which it has grown. Somehow, you thought this would be a lot harder. You wonder if you did this right. The root shrivels and twists in your hands until nothing is left. Astonished, you look at your empty hands. So now the real question is if it comes back. Nope. Okay, I am actually kind of curious now. Resting in graveyard seems like a great idea. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. You see transparent, decaying, writhy, slimy, undead fragments of undulating ectoplasm. Apparently it's apparently this is too big for the title. Something game anyway. As the ghosts suck the life out of your body and you crumple into the dust of the old graveyard, you think unspeakable thoughts of torture and torment directed at vicious programmers and insidious game designers. But please buy our next game okay, it's just the text from the one before anyway. So I believe there was a remedy for that particular problem. Yeah, this is the funny thing. I understand this is like a really well-known feature of Sierra games. It's actually one of the things that I think makes like the LucasArts games the clear, I don't know. To me, I think they are the best example of the genre. I get that they're sort of like a feature that everybody kind of considers to be, defining for the Sierra stuff, but the seemingly random deaths at times can be a bit much. So I believe in this case, I've already done the deal with Baba Yaga, so... So you return to my shop, asking me what you will, but keep it to the point. Impossible on this stream. I don't think it's any of these. Okay, restorative potions and scrolls.
I'm trying to think of the ones that I've done on stream. So I've done Full Throttle. I've done Day of the Tentacle. I feel like I've done more LucasArts games than I can't remember. I think I've done the first Monkey Island game. I should probably do the sequels, actually. You politely knock on the door. After a moment, you hear the inside bolt slide open. A voice from inside says, "Come on in." You tell the healer that you have been to visit the Dryad of the Woods and that she gave you a magic acorn and told you the formula for a potion to dispel enchantments. So you help the Dryad. That's nice. She does keep the forest around here healthy. So that's how you make a dispel potion, is it? Thanks for letting me know. I make and sell a healing potion, power potion, vigor potion. There it is, undead unguent. Give me one of them undead things. Good lord. Ruinous. I hope this will help you. I hope so too. Prior to the internet, I'll have you know, if I recall correctly, at least, one of LucasArts' earliest games was an MMO called Habitat. How's that for the deep, deep game lore? Sacre bleu! This will go rather poorly. So, yeah, could have worked that out a little bit better, but yeah, so here's the question. How many of you have heard of Habitat? Now I'm really hoping it's called Habitat, by the way, but I believe it was for like the Commodore 64, but it was an MMO. And weirdly enough, there's two ways that I've heard of Habitat. One was someone at the local game dev meetup who presented on it. But then I've been listening to Mitch Lasky's podcast, Gamecraft, and he mentioned it on, I think it was in the section of, I think it was on the section of, oh Christ, what am I trying to think of? It was like virtual economies or something like that. So obviously, like, WoW was something that came up. The original Diablo 3 auction system. There's definitely a few examples. You politely knock on the door. After a moment, you hear the inside bolt slide open. A voice from inside says, "Come on in." I'm actually going to try a couple steps here. So one, I'm going to buy the ghost potion. Excuse me. I'm also going to see if I can get away, with a bit of rest. Excuse me. Now, this will presumably be tough to together. Now, actually, I should mention that Mitch Lasky podcast I rather like, but I do have slightly complicated feelings about for two reasons now. One of them is because the yeah, so I think I'm trying to remember how my friend at the meetup implemented. I feel like he had his own habitat instance, or maybe maybe he was using one of the good lord. We're not even trying this one. I wasn't quite expecting that, but okay. I don't even want to guess about the Loch Ness monster or whatever was coming after me there. Maybe, but when the last dinosaur showed up, it forced me to look at it. So I don't know how precise it wants me to be about the midnight. You feel a tingling sensation as you rub the unguent all over your body. It appears that the spirits frolic here during the dark hours. Now, I'm going to guess it's going to tell me I screwed up again. You wrench the mandrake plant free from its tombstone on which it has grown. Somehow you thought this would be a lot harder. You wonder if you did this right. The root shrivels and twists in your hand. Yeah. Guess we're waiting. Here we go. You wrench the mandrake plant free from the tombstone on which it has grown. You hear a scream like that of a dying child as you yank the root from the ground. You know what? I don't need this kind of negativity in my life. So you made it back, did you? She's expecting you. Sorry, I did want to talk about the Mitch Lasky podcast, but the game has other thoughts. Hut of Brown, now sit down. Bad strategy. You really brought down the house. Too bad you were under it at the time. Everyone thinks you're very clever, Sierra. Anyways, yeah. So the Michalowski is at, or used to be at least, is at Benchmark, which is a venture capital firm. So you made it back, did you? She's expecting you. I think he had a role in a few. So he worked for Activision, worked for EA. I think he worked at Microsoft for a bit. Back so soon? Serpents of mist and creatures of bog transform my guest to the shape of a frog. This I vow, stay there now. Once again, you're a frog, and once again, you can't move. You find it very exasperating. Yum yum, froggy frappe. Did you bring me my mandrake like you promised? As you make a feeble croaking sound, you try to nod your head. Well, where is it? What's the matter? Got a frog in your throat? I suppose I'll have to turn you back into whatever it is that you were. Pity, you're much more appetizing this way. Creatures of bog and spirits of fog return the true form to this rather dumb frog. Now, did you put it in your backpack? Ah, here it is. Kids, we have it. That's it, the final ingredient. Now we can make our greatest creation. Mandrake mousse! What's that, children? You think we should reward our lackey here? Very well, X-Frog. I'll let you live this time. Next time, though, it's frog's legs for sure. So go. What an awful creature to turn me into a frog, you say to yourself. Someday I must return the favor. I don't know if we accomplished that much doing that. You tried Celeste for the first time. Your hands are completely dead after one level. How does anyone play this? I feel like I should mention do you know the developers behind that are from Vancouver? The tingling sensation is wearing off. You again? Do you really want to go back in there? You again? That's one mean ogress. Upon reading the note, you realize it is a recipe for frog's legs fricassee. Fire burns hot under the kettle. There's a lot of something cooking away in that huge black cauldron. The smell is awful, the color is sickening, and you don't even want to know what's being prepared for dinner. The kitchen knives on the table look old but sharp. You can't quite make out what is in the bottles. Powers that rule over regions soggy, change this creature back into a froggy. Ooh, yummy! I'm glad you returned. Baba Yaga says you have good taste. Before you confront someone who is obviously more powerful than you are, give yourself a chance to reflect. Tingling sensation is gone. But yeah, so sorry, I wanted to talk a little bit about this podcast. So one of the things that made me a bit sad about it was apparently its origin was that they wanted to wanted to do like a book on sort of the games business and what they had learned. I was going to say their experience isn't just limited to existing publishers, but also on the financing side. So I believe he financed Riot when that was still a startup, and that game company. So it's fair to say this is a pretty. Suddenly, a feeling of peace and tranquility permeates the area. It's fair to say that there's like a pretty solid track record there. And we will rest till morning. But more importantly, it's also, so it's nice to have a perspective from someone, in the business, someone I don't normally have access to, and someone whose role at Benchmark is largely about not necessarily seeing the current state of the industry, but being able to evaluate people who are proposing, what it might look like moving forward. So for instance, if you think of Riot before League of Legends was a household name, basically the premise for that one is to say, you take a lot of the features of gaming that's happening sort of in the Far East, and I think one of the things that made that pitch work very well was the fact that they could point to something like Dota and sort of say that, we're not starting from scratch here in terms of introducing people into something. We're going to give them like a high quality version of this mod that's already popular, and that's going to be how we introduce sort of this free to play style. And obviously it worked very, very well. And likewise, it was really interesting to hear the story about I think it was Genova Chen pitching that game company, and it specifically being about the types of games and experiences, and specifically what was missing from gaming. And I think this would be before Journey was a thing. So I think Flower had been created. I actually don't remember the timeline on this stuff, but and apparently Lasky's account of it is that he was certain that like he was going to get told off at Benchmark for bringing in this purely artistically motivated individual, like the person who's not necessarily going to make them any money or didn't come with a pitch for like how to make money. And apparently the response was to say, this is exactly the sort of person we should be financing. And again, it's the idea here of identifying that gap, and, presumably some of the things that VC would give would be help with, or, access to the resources that will, be able to refine that into a more sustainable business model. So for instance, I don't even know what the current game is, but like it's a game that has this really interesting idea of like there's a big gifting culture in it, and that I think you unlock chat and like the ability to see cosmetics through an act of altruism. And I think there's something kind of neat about that, because you can see the business model, right? Like it's the same sort of thing that drives a lot of Steam sales. I feel like if you see a good discount on a game you love, you buy it for someone. And I think that's kind of neat. And again, it was certainly doesn't seem to be incompatible with what was pitched, although obviously I don't know the pitch that well. But again, one of the things that made me a little sad hearing about the origin of that podcast was the idea was to make a book. And I think the decision eventually was that a book would be a lot of effort, and that not a lot of people read books, apparently, but a lot of people listen to podcasts. And so the decision was to make a podcast. And obviously I'm like, I kind of get it. Like if you can, you want to maximize an audience, especially if you think it's a message worth getting out there, but it feels like such a big concession to reduce something that might be more suited to a book into a podcast format. And as it happens, I'm actually now running into some of the consequences of that decision. For instance, there was an episode on consoles, and it mentioned an anecdote in which Iwata, like the CEO of Nintendo, during a shareholder meeting, this is after mobile came out, the story as told is that Nintendo had a lot of insistent shareholders, wanting them to port their games to mobile, and that apparently there was one very insistent shareholder telling Iwata to put games on mobile. And he responds eventually by going down into the audience and punching the guy in the face, and both are dragged out by security. Now, what an incredible story, right? I don't believe that happened. As in, I literally don't believe that happened. I want to see a source. If, for a company like the size and, with the history of Nintendo, the fact that I'm hearing this, maybe it happened. I do know that the shareholders were very aggressive with Nintendo about basically abandoning hardware and becoming sort of a mobile gaming focused company. But the idea of like a CEO like walking off the stage and punching a shareholder in the face, like, okay, let's see where this is going from. So it turns out I did find the source for it, and it was a satirical, it's like offline now, but it's a satirical website. It's like, God, there's one, is it called Hard Drive? I can't remember it. There was, anyways, but yeah, like it's basically, it's the Onion for, or Clickhole, or I guess Babylon Bee if you're of a particular stripe, for gaming. And I totally see like why that's probably a funny article. But the only way I could find it was through the Internet Archive. And actually I did do a little more digging, and there's actually a Medium article now about like liking Gamecraft, but kind of not believing that they could let such shoddy research go through. And I will confess, like, again, I absolutely cannot dispute Lasky's background. Like, as far as a guy to talk about the business of games, I definitely feel that he is somebody that I should be listening to. But, I am definite, unless it's like, I will believe the firsthand stuff. I will believe the assessment of the environment sort of stuff. A lot of the episodes I'm listening to are a bit older too. So, there's definitely a lot of stuff on the sort of the mania for the metaverse. And of course, now that is such a, it's such a cute set of episodes to listen to. And by the way, he was skeptical of it, right? So like, as far as the qualities that like go into someone like him making the right calls and that, I absolutely see why he is good at the VC job. Apparently, he actually. He passed on Oculus. This was before they did the Kickstarter. In fact, it's apparently one of the reasons that they wound up having to do the Kickstarter. And they assessed at the time that it was like, the wrong choice for the right reasons. Now, again, I guess the question for the VCs, that would have been a really good investment because, of course, it gets sold to Facebook, and which eventually becomes Meta. And, it's the Facebook shareholders that are left to, deal with the consequences of that choice. But, yeah, I mean, like, we have the benefit of history now to see how that sort of era went. But yeah, it's just one of these things where, I don't know if it would have been different. The one thing I think would have been different is if it had been a book, presumably part of the yeah, I mean, I guess the difference here is that Palmer Luckey then turned Kickstarter backing into, the most amazingly cheap, in investing that he could, and then just pocketed all the money for selling it to Meta. So, yeah, I don't know. The thing that I think a publisher would have brought to a book version of that podcast would be, I believe part of the job, if not the editor, at least hiring someone to go through the, the facts. One of my favorite things that I read actually was the editor's notes, because I think this is during one of the lawsuits, but the completely exasperated editor's notes for Milo Yiannopoulos' book. I wouldn't read the book, but I'd definitely read those editor's notes. And it's very funny too, because the editor very clearly sees what sees what the book is trying to be, and is not necessarily completely trying to defang the tone, but there's a difference between an incredibly tiresome screed and something with a really aggressive voice, and obviously again, I'm sure they're available online. They were funny to read, at least for me. But yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing, presumably sufficiently large podcasts now will have staff to do the fact checks and things like that. But it's sort of it's a problem I run into myself, right? If I don't check my sources carefully, the only way I'm going to find out if I make a bad judgment would be through, a reader commenting and saying that thing's not true. Good example actually would be, there was a set of experiments done. This would be for film, and sort of the early versions of the Soviet theory of montage. So these experiments would be, you would take an actor, reasonably well-known Soviet actor, and you would have an image of him, and the filmed image is him sort of looking, basically more or less at the camera, I believe. And then it would be cut, and it's, a bowl of soup. And ask the audience, what's the response? Oh, he's so hungry. It's, that's amazing. What a good actor. Image cut. This time it's a grave, Oh, he's mourning the loss of his mother, it's such intense grief, and so on and so forth. Cut to a shot of a kid playing. It's oh, he's watching his daughter play, he's lovely, and so on and so forth. It's always the same image of the actor. The only thing that's changing is the film, the image that's being juxtaposed to. And this is basically the theory of montage, that basically it is the juxtaposition of the two images that create meaning. Eisenstein is the most famous sort of theorist of this. But there's a reason I've avoided saying the name. So these are actually the Kuleshov experiments. At least this is my understanding now. But for the longest time, I had attributed it to Pudovkin, who is another Soviet theorist. And apparently, I am wrong to attribute it to Pudovkin, but I also know why I had that misunderstanding. Apparently, Pudovkin did in fact have something of a campaign to try and claim that he is the originator of the theory of montage and sort of claim the experiment for himself. At least this is, again,
I'm telling a story about how I had misunderstood an anecdote anyway. So perhaps this would be another example where I'm not properly sourcing these claims. But one way or the other, apparently this is not an uncommon misunderstanding. But again, just kind of going by memory, I thought I understood this little bit of film history rather well, but essentially attributed it to the wrong guy. So, and again, probably if more people read the blog, somebody would have pointed that out. For me, it was actually reading somebody else's material, and they referred to the Kuleshov experiment, and it was like, wait a minute, I thought it was Pudovkin. So then I went and checked, and of course, in that case, I'm like, oh man, I've been getting this wrong for so long, and probably to people who knew better and just didn't correct me. But this is, I think one of the things is like this is the difference in temperament, right? Like some people are not going to want to check the story about Iwata punching a shareholder. And then some people are going to realize that it does damage their credibility if they tell a story like that, and that is, reasonably easy to verify as a satirical article. But like I said, I mean, the reasons why I'll listen to Mitch Lasky are largely because of his actual experience in gaming and, his modern perspectives on the industry and where it's going. So, I also don't want to be too aggressive in like rejecting the podcast on the basis of those mistakes. Sometimes mistakes happen. So, New York Times calls it the North American Treaty Organization. You awake as the sun begins to rise. Now, I suspect we didn't get a full heal out of this. Apparently we did. All right, I can use some fire practice. Kind of wiped out my mana, but I figure I can at least get a bit of a rest. Well, I'd never really used the so the spells I have are Open, Zap, Calm, Flame Dart, which is now at 20 experience, and Fetch. Calm I got from here. But yeah, I never really used Firebolt. I don't think I have the mana for it, but... I know I can buy like mana potions, but I'm too cheap. I should also go to the stables. Search your opponent, you find 8 silver coins and carefully place them in your pouch. Okay. What I'm going to do is... Actually, weirdly enough, the castle might be slightly closer. I'd rather not face off against the brigand if I can avoid it.
Do we switch to EGA mode? Just a minute while I raise the gate. See, you're back. Need some work? Yes. Good. Come in here and take a rake. I don't pay you to rest. Get to work now. Okay, come on over here. The stableman hands you some coins and says, now you're 5 silvers richer. I'm just doing it to get swole, dude. All right, let's... Could do with the rest. All right, I don't have that much more time to play, but I'm going to try saving and resetting. This is looking a little better. I haven't. I don't think I even noticed the scorpion. All right, so I'm going to try and get the green fur. The funny thing is, I've been given instructions on how to, oh, you know what? I guess I'll wait for the, I'll wait for my mana first, but it just occurred to me, if I'm getting better with fire darts, then theoretically I should be better at taking out the troll. Goblin has a mean look in its eyes. You prepare for battle. I didn't even see a goblin. That's a lot of goblins. Hey, Dodge Viper GT. I completely forgot I did Cross Country Canada. This is Quest for Glory, also known as Hero's Quest. Congratulates you for finding the first bug in the game for clicking on the scorpion.
One of the things that's really interesting about this one, I have some minor gripes, but I will say I'm really interested in the fact that it's taken the sort of the old school point and click adventure game, but it's put sort of a set of role-playing mechanics on it. So like this is actual, so I'm playing a magic user, but obviously I was doing some physical combat. I feel like, no, if I go one to the left, I think I'm going to go where I need to go. There seemed to be an abundant supply of blue and purple meeps. If only they'd stay still for a moment, you'd be able to count them. Aha! You realize that you have never seen more than one green meep at a time. Perhaps there is only one. The meeps have brightly colored, soft-looking fur. You get no response. The mountains are very steep here. Large, heavy-looking rocks cover the many holes. The meeps must be stronger than they look to lift these rocks so easily. I don't know if it was my proximity or if the green one just doesn't want to come. Oh. Okay, looking doesn't seem to do anything. We must parley. You hear squeaky muttering from beneath the ground. It seems the meeps are having quite a discussion about you. Hiya, pleased to meet you. Tell me about meeps. We are happy meeps living in our happy holes. Don't worry, be happy. Tell me about the rocks. We use rocks for doors. They keep us dry and warm in our holes. Tell me about the holes. We live in tunnels under the ground, you know? Tell me about fur. Hey, fur is good stuff. Keeps us warm. Mine's the best. It's green, you know? Tell me more about green fur. Oh, let me see if I can fix. It looks like you got hit by Automod, Dodge Viper GT, and if I tab out of the game, it's going to minimize the window in a way that doesn't work for the stream. So let me see if I can approve your message on mobile. And if I can't, I apologize. That is actually, I didn't think I had that enabled. But for those of you that want to know, I am deeply sorry. I am not going to be able to approve this until I actually close the... close it. Okay, so I'm not familiar with Rick and Morty. That's clearly why it disabled it. But yeah, it says, Mr. Meepeaks, look at me. This was the unforgivable sin that Twitch didn't ban, but suppressed Dodge Viper GT's comment for. All right, tell me about green fur. Oh, you want some green fur? I think I have some somewhere. Cool. That was easy. Brigands. Gee, boss. I don't really know much about that at all. Hey, sorry. Tell me about magic. I found a scroll lying around in the woods one day. You want it? It's yours.
Oh, okay. Well, nice talking to you. That was an oddly productive conversation. You pick up the green fur. You pick up the spell scroll. As the magical runes fade, you now know how to cast the Detect Magic spell. All right. So I'm getting kind of close to the time I would want to wrap up, but I did say I was going to try and I had the theory that the flying water would be the waterfall, so I will try and go there. Now that's interesting that they didn't keep the it's interesting that they didn't keep what sounds like a more complex animation for the VGA one. The Mandrake's back. Do you have any blank spots on your map? I suspect there are a couple of places that I didn't write down properly. But for the most part, it's the wizard that I haven't talked to yet. So like, there's one part which there's one part I've sort of deliberately avoided, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit like the castle, where you go to the area and then there's just like a few screens inside. Okay, so we drew water from here. There's actually two reasons for me to hang out in this area. One... Yeah, no luck apparently. So as far as flying water is concerned, it would seem to me you already have some. Don't be greedy. Interesting. You drink the clear water from the flask, draining it completely. What, I don't get to keep the flask? Fill an empty flask with the crystal clear water from the waterfall. It's not immediately clear to me that... I mean, it says it's from the waterfall, but... I'll try and be a little more explicit. All right, well, there you go. Let's see. The only thing you can open here is the door, and you're not skilled enough to do that. The rocks are too slick from the spray of the waterfall for your limited climbing skill. That spell doesn't seem to work at this time. You don't have enough magic points to cast that spell. Well, I can fix that. Everything here must be bolted down somehow. Well, I tried. So maybe what I'll try and do here, seeing as I'm going to be wrapping up in a moment anyway, let's try and go to the healer and see if we can turn in any of these goodies. You again. I may also stop by the Adventurers Guild just to see if just give myself a little reminder in terms of some of the things that I can do. Well, what can I do for you this time? The healer makes some sort of arcane gesture over the flask of water, then smiles. Flying water. How clever. Let's see. To make the Dispel Potion, I still need... Thank you very much, Ellen Ripley. You just did this so you could see the sub alert finally. Let's see. To make the Dispel Potion, I still need fairy dust, green fur, and a magic acorn. Those meeps sound so interesting. I'd like to meet them sometime. I'll get to work on that potion of yours. See, to make the Dispel Potion, I'll still need fairy dust and a magic acorn. So you help the Dryad. That's nice. She does keep the forest around here healthy. So that's how to make a Dispel Potion, is it? Thanks for letting me know. Alright, so all I need is fairy dust. I do have a very, very, like, outside theory in terms of how I might be able to get the fairy dust. But I will save that for another time. I think... I'm going to call it here. So thank you everybody for hanging out. I actually feel like I got more done in this session than I was planning, and I was actually really... Twitch has moved the gift a sub button and the whisper button in its place, so I almost became a creepy inboxer instead of gifting. I'd be happy to get a DM from you, Ellen Ripley, you know that. But yeah, I obviously I was debating on doing this because I'm very, very tired. I'm glad I did it though. I mean, again, the only thing I don't mind doing like long ranty rants, but it's nice if I finish them as opposed to sort of half starting some of these things and then getting lost on a tangent. And again, that just happens when I'm, exhausted. But I'm glad you all stuck around for this. So, I'm going to try and find someone to host. Now, I will just maybe caution, I don't know... I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to stream this next. Obviously, I didn't think I was going to be streaming this tonight, and I wound up doing it. So I won't rule out Friday. But on the other hand, I would, if I can, like to do some variety, right? I think this is a really interesting game, and I'm glad that I'm doing it. But I don't know if I want to make it sort of a few sessions worth in a row, maybe for those who don't find the old school aesthetic working. But the one thing I will say for a like 90s point and click adventure game, I do actually feel like I'm making reasonable progress and not getting like too lost. There's a couple things where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure how this works, but like it's been pretty solid as far as like just navigating. So, oh, and we've got also check out Revive Snow, wonderful broadcaster. Anyways, Will Shand is doing his spooky or strange and scary games. Shand is quite a lot of fun to watch. He does this for a living. I think he's like one of the longest streamers that I've known, actually. But he
he will find a lot of stuff on itch or like just, I don't know how he finds some of it, to be honest, but like some of this very much, you know, sometimes very odd, you know, simple games, and some of them are also very charming. He's someone I knew in Vancouver. I like hanging out with him, and he's a reasonably safe choice in the evening just because he's on the West Coast, so usually we'll be streaming a bit later than I will. But anyways, I am going to get some sleep finally. I'm going to figure out what I want to stream on Friday. But until then, I hope you all have a nice couple of days and a good sleep for those of you that are in the Eastern time zone. All right, have a good one.